Hi everyone, welcome to the today's session. So we are in track 2. So we are starting the session by Meghana Parwate, Agile Mentoring. So just to give a quick intro about Meghana, she's an STC working as a senior Agile coach. We both are connected for a while. Of course, haven't got a chance to talk to each other, but yes, she's an excellent coach who has lots of experience and expertise on her. And thanks, Meghana, for doing a session with us. Over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Satish. Yeah, it's always been a lot of interactions I've had with Satish virtually and through various mechanisms. And thanks for having me here today, and a little bit expanding on myself. I started my professional journey with applications development slightly over more than 2 decades now. Uh, I graduated into multiple roles, and at some point in time, I had the opportunity to play the role of a Scrum Master. And from there, my own journey with agility started. First, it was all about the practices, all about also learning from peers, because we didn't have as many events back then. We did not have as many coaches and mentors to support us. So a lot of learning by doing and experimentation. And after that, I had the opportunity to play multiple roles. I started enjoying a lot of opportunities to interact with the stakeholders, work in shorter cycles, and get a lot of feedback while things are happening, instead of having to wait until the end and then get through something. So uh, over a period of time, I thought it's a good idea to now help people and organizations succeed with the experience that I have gathered over all these years. And so I felt that coaching is my calling, and I've been a coach in 3 organizations up until now. It's been an amazing journey of trying to observe people, trying to observe how they go through change, trying to lead, influence, and lead a lot of things. And today I want to share yet another sort of experience that I've had in the recent times in my existing organization with, in the purview of mentoring specifically. What is the agility part of it? How do we approach mentoring in a whole different manner? Because we all have been in mentoring connects, I'm sure. We have been mentors, we have been mentees. How do we distinguish what is a different flavor that I'm trying to share today? We'll go over that. And how does this become an enabler? Because when we look at mentoring, the success of the mentoring is really the success of the mentee. And so how do we make this as an enabler to help people succeed in their existing or aspirational roles? I have a few things to share basis my experience, but I'm happy to expand. If you have any specific questions or anything at all, we can definitely talk about those ones. So let's look at a few guiding principles that really make this unique. As I mentioned, we have been mentors, mentees, and mentoring per se is something which has existed for many, many years. So what's really distinguishing is to understand, reiterate, and to live that journey with the thought process that success of mentoring is really the success of the mentee. So mentoring is very, very mentee centric, and it should really be an enabler to something in the very near future. Now, of course, we might always say and feel that, okay, it's not that you get into a mentoring session or a mentoring cycle and immediately you have an opportunity come by. No, it's about utilizing what we do in the mentoring sessions. If the mentee is able to utilize that in the current or aspiring role, I think that's where the whole crux of the matter is. So put the mentee at the center. What does a mentee want to uh, understand or develop more of? And of course, the mentee is not going to be having all of this thought come to him or her very, very immediately. So how do we as mentors, if you're playing the role of a mentor, how do you help get that out? Okay, so yeah, mentoring largely, the expectation is to share experiences, is to provide sometimes really clear directions. But it's also about, if the mentee is not clear of which way to take, it's also about helping the mentee to do that. So we are going to focus on that as well. What have I tried? What has worked for me? What has been my experience? I'm more than happy to share. And more importantly, we have seen that there is a lot of experience sometimes in mentoring interactions at the beginning, but then the um, excitement or the enthusiasm fizzles down as you go into a few sessions and so on. So how do we keep that pace and momentum going? That's another aspect to consider. Definitely it's about interactions, but I'm going to give you some interesting takeaways from my experience, what has worked, and how do you keep that momentum going? How do you keep that interest going? With all the sincere efforts, however, you will still have those 5% people who connect for 1 or 2 mentoring sessions and then never turn up. So that is going to still happen, but how do we reduce that aspect? So those are some of the things we will talk about today. And with that, let's look at a very interesting real life situation. This is a little story which actually has happened. Names and other things have been changed, of course, to retain confidentiality. However, it's definitely based on real life situation. And there is an employee in a fintech company called ABC. This person has a very interesting background. This person graduated in political science, and at some point in time, whatever reasons, there was advice from family, how due to some things, he decided to get into a different professional track altogether. With his political science background, there could have been something different that he might want to indulge in. However, somehow decided that, okay, my calling is something else, started to pick the few basic tricks of trade to get into the fintech company, and actually made it there. So got selected through the initial process, joined the operations team, first and foremost the technology operations, the application operations team. And as he was part of this operations team, he started to look around, okay, what else is there, how does a fintech company actually function? Because there was no such background that was available with him. And what are the roles, what are the things people do? And what really caught his attention is the product manager role. And over a period of time, he felt that that's my calling, this is what I want to do. Now, how do we go about it? The background is completely diverse, which is good. However, there are few things which need to be prepped up. So how do people like these go about? And for good, this organization, this company has a mentoring program that runs through, and this person Rahul enrolled for it, and found a really good mentor. But it's not just about Rahul finding his mentor. Rahul needs to also put in heart and soul into it. His involvement matters. And from there on, how did they approach the whole mentoring journey? So I have been the mentor of this person, so I can definitely talk all through from a mentoring perspective and so on. So uh, what did I do differently? I first and foremost helped Rahul find a sweet spot in terms of his aspirations, in terms of the strengths. So forget for a moment the background, the educational background this person comes with, but there are definitely skills that will be useful. And then what are the possible openings in the company? So in sum and summary, we helped create together the ikigai for Rahul, and then that became the basis for our mentoring conversations. So two mentoring cycles, one mentoring cycle approximately lasts for 6 months, and there is a very clear set of focal points that are basically created by the mentor and mentee together, more onus on the mentee. And we'll articulate a little details of this, the mentoring opportunity, how it goes about it. We'll articulate in the next slide. And so completed two mentoring cycles basically. And then eventually Rahul is getting geared for his product management role. His mentoring continues. He definitely has applied for a third cycle of mentoring, this time very, very specific to helping him become a better product manager. Now, in this entire scene, what's interesting is the opportunity that's provided to the mentee to discover himself in a very new light. So the aspirations, the strengths, and the possible opening, because it has to be a beautiful confluence of these three, which will help, find something very soon, and most likely in the current organization. Now, why do we go with this approach? What are the benefits that we have perceived? This approach helps because the mentee takes a lot of onus, because now it is his or her aspirations that are very visible in the mentoring focus. The other thing is to look out for possible openings in the existing organization, maybe not a full-time role, maybe a transition, maybe a stretch goal, or a volunteering opportunity. But in the existing organization, there is a very safe place to try this out. If it didn't work, there is always the opportunity to go back to the existing role, or to find a slightly matching or a different role. That's always possible. However, this, when tried in a completely new organization, could be very, very challenging. So the existing organization, nice place to test the waters. So that is what makes this unique. And in this case, the real beneficiary is the mentee, and hence it is very, very sort of mentee centric, customer centric, you may call it. That's the crux of the agile mentoring aspect. So very, very focused on what the person wants to do, trying to look out for a safe place where this can be demonstrated, because anything that's working, any opportunity to implement the learnings, that is the real help that one can provide to the mentee. So with this, let's zoom in on a little bit on how the mentoring cycle functions. And this would be very interesting key takeaways for all of you. So first and foremost, what's really the goal of the mentoring? What is the brand the mentee wants to build? So few years down the line, if somebody were to meet the mentee, what should that person see visibly? What is the mentee doing? What is the mentee successful at? So we look out for that aspect. What's your brand? What would you like as a mentee? What would you like people to know you for? And that's exactly the process towards self-discovery. No mentee, by the way, comes with a direct set of inputs to this. As a mentor, if you're playing the role of a mentor in something like this, you have to help the mentee discover it. And definitely the Ikigai model or framework, that's quite well utilized and harnessed. And it's a process of discovery to begin with. And the other interesting angle after the Ikigai has been really identified, and it could change over a period of time sometimes. However, there is no harm doing it, because that still is a good way to identify what the mentee wants to do. Coming to the mentoring conversations which happen after a certain stable state in the in finding the Ikigai. So finding the mentee's Ikigai is like a week or two in the first mentoring cycle, and then from there on the focus completely goes to the sweet spot. What is the mentee good at? What does the mentee want to do? And strengths and opportunities and so on. And from there, to keep the momentum going, because mentoring conversations, it's all about individuals and interactions, without which it is definitely not going to progress as attractively as we wish. And then either the mentee or the mentor starts to lose the momentum. So to prevent that from happening, one interesting thing that I would recommend is to do a lot of validated learning. So a mentoring session need not always be, a mentoring conversation need not always be about the time we spend together. Typically what's recommended in here is you send a few things across to the mentee. It can be YouTube videos, it can be books, it can be, again, that's also part of a little bit finding the ikigai. What's a natural preference of the mentee? Some people just enjoy YouTube videos, some like reading books. So either ways, whatever that looks like, share a few things ahead of time, maybe a week of time, and or in the form of a learning path sometimes. So there have been mentoring conversations or mentoring connects where we go through a specific learning path maybe, and so on. So either ways, find the natural inclination together, what works for you, working agreements between the mentor and the mentee. And then also in each of the mentoring conversations, make sure there is some time for discussing about what the mentee went over. What did the mentee read? What did the mentee understand? What did the mentee not understand? So that's where there is an exchange of thoughts and the opportunity to ask questions, and it creates a lot of accountability on the mentee when you do the validated learning, because now the mentee knows that every time we meet, we have a focal point for the conversation. So the mentee will start then looking forward to that conversation much more. So you want it to be a pull based system if you are the mentor in such a setup, and for sure that's exactly what it is all about. And last but not the least, what's very, very important is also to look at how do we periodically do an inspect and adapt. You could do a retrospective, you could do a just, informal exchange of ideas. Is there anything we need to change? So at least after a month or two, it's a good idea to look back on uh, whether this is helping the mentee. You could have your simple questions: is this helping? In what way is this helping? What should we continue? What should we stop? And so on. So that's the other significant pillar of a mentoring cycle. Now, a few questions leading into finding the ikigai. So, as a recommended format, as a guideline, this is what I share with people when we start a mentoring cycle. I just ask them in plain, simple English to pen down, or okay, you can send a digital copy as well, no problem. However, to think about this. What do you enjoy? What are you good at doing? And so on and so forth. So there are these 9 leading questions. Just asking the mentees to respond in plain simple English answers to these questions. That's about it on a professional standpoint. So that's basically the starting point. That would be something interesting for all of you to try with or without mentoring as well. So that's the ikigai part. Then mentoring from the back of the room. Basically, this is to bank on the back of the room concept, which is extremely popular and works very well in my experience for bringing in a lot of accountability into the mentoring. So in course of that, what have I tried? What has been my experience? First and foremost, using techniques that are mentioned in here, or things that I mentioned in here, it creates a lot of participation, because I've heard from so many mentors or people who are responsible for really running a mentoring cycle in an organization and so on. I've heard from them that participation is what is the most dicey thing, what is the most challenging thing. Everyone undoubtedly says participation. Most of the times participation from the mentee, occasionally participation from the mentor as well. So with mentoring from the back of the room, it's more of a conversation. It's not a unidirectional session ever, that the mentee gets to only receive information overload from the mentor and then goes about, okay, these are the things, that's about it. No, it's equally important to understand the mentee's viewpoint, because success of the mentoring is actually the success of the mentee. So very, very important that we look at the mentee at the heart of all of this. The other aspect we already spoke about, validated learning. Yes, very, very important, very, very crucial to have, as an inclusion in the conversations, to see what has been validated. If the mentor is not an expert in all the things that are spoken about, could occasionally invite, or get thoughts from an subject matter expert. However, most of the times, it should be interesting to indulge in a conversation this way. The third thing about mentoring from the back of the room is when the mentee needs to prepare something with an open canvas. I mean, the mentee can use a slide presentation, mentee can use mural, mentee can do anything to ensure that we have talking points. So that is what helps the mentee develop soft skills as well. So you will definitely have some focus for the mentoring conversations. But apart from that, as we know, soft skills are like the essential life skills, whether on the professional side or on the personal side. There are a bunch of things that always help, be it time management, be it presentation skills. That's not something which anyone feels is less important. So mentoring from the back of the room, the other aspect where it immensely helps is that soft skills development happens alongside. And the fourth and the most important aspect is, it's always about discovering things than completely 100% canned solutions. I think there is a very thin line over there sometimes, but if you, as a mentor, enable the mentee to discover a few things, the learning will be phenomenal. And what is your gain in the entire mentoring cycle is you get to understand a different perspective as well. So you have your own experience as a mentor from where you come from, you share that with the mentee. But if you know about 100 different things, the mentee might come up with the 101st one. So that enriches you as a mentor as well. Be open to learning even from the junior most member in your organization. You will have a phenomenal experience. And hence, the process of discovering things is a great step in moving towards learning better things. So that's, in summary, some of the things about keeping the momentum going, which is where we feel that this is actually one of the most important challenges for us to fathom. Now, what have been the pillars of success? Most important is to measure something or the other. Now, I'm not for sure going to share a particular set of matrix or something. When we hear the term measure, we often just jump to the word matrix. No, I'm not going to share that because again, it is very, very specific to conversations. Somebody wants to increase as example, somebody wants to increase the competency levels at a particular genre or something like that. That could be a measuring criteria or something else, but be creative about it. However, for sure, have some sort of measurements that are mutually beneficial, much more tilting towards the mentee than anything else. Back of the room concept, we already spoke about that in very many details in a slide, so I want you to really also remember those things as a key takeaway from this. And last but not the least, be very focused and time boxed in your conversations and in the mentoring cycle. So make sure you plan for something with a lot of focus, finish that cycle. You can always indulge in one more if the mentor and mentee is mutually interested in continuing it. There can be another one. However, keep it short, simple, and keep it time boxed and focused. This is very, very important for the psychological aspect of the mentoring. It really creates a very good effect. So let it not be so open-ended. Yeah, we will meet every month for the next 3 years. No, that's not. Yeah, you can meet every month for the next 3 years, but what do you aim to do or get done in that time? I think that is what matters most to make it successful. So I think that being said, there are different ways, and this will typically be the last thing I want to cover, and I want to open the floor to understanding from all of you. If you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, so we'll open that in a minute. But just as a summary, there are various ways in which this could be helpful in your organization. Here are a few things that I have discovered. There's a lot of collaboration and networking that happens in course of this. So going back to the example, the story that we started with, so Rahul, who comes from political science background and now is looking at a career option in the product management side of things. What has been done in his mentoring cycle is also to encourage him to connect with other product managers in the organization to understand what does a day in their life look like. So a real performing product manager in an X organization, what does he or she do whole day? So Rahul was entrusted with a task of actually finding that out, going and interacting with the real product manager and learning, okay, this is what happens. So this way you get to create a whole culture of collaboration, a whole wave of collaboration and networking through the organization. Very, very important when people are looking at growing in some shape and form. The next is about, helping to transition into different roles. Again, absolutely amazing. People are really the wealth in any organization, especially it comes to knowledge workers. Very, very important that we are able to provide people an opportunity to shake their comfort zone and to move horizontally as well as vertically inside an organization. So that's where mentoring definitely helps in very many ways. And last but not the least, there could be reasons why an employee is not very successful in the existing organization, in the existing space, and hence on an improvement plan. So it might as well be an option to consider that we put him or her on a very focused mentoring cycle this way, and then work towards transition into a different space. Maybe that is very successful, or that could be very successful, but we would not know until we have really made that effort and spend that time with the employee. So it can actually be in the interest of organization. We don't lose our knowledge capital, um, and at the same time we have the opportunity provided to people to boost or accelerate their performance. So I think that's really from the prepared slides that I wanted to share, but there are very many aspects. I just prioritize the ones which I felt would be really interesting for people to understand and take some learnings from. However, I'm happy to expand if you have any situational questions, if you want to share or ask something in particular. Maybe Sharad or Satish, if do we take questions from the chat, or how do you want to go about it?
Yes, Meghana, we can take the questions. Right now, we don't have anything in the chat. So, folks, here you can unmute and you can speak, or you can ask the questions. You can get anything clarified from your side. The floor is open for questions now.
Sure, maybe I can go now. Hi, Meghna. This is Parminder. Yeah. So, hi, Meghna. Parminder here.
Oh, wow. So, nice meeting you.
Same here. I'm so glad to hear from you. So one thing, this is one thing that, since long, it has been there in my mind, and I thought I'll talk to you once on this. Good that we got to meet here so I can ask.
Sure.
It's the same, actually, mentoring lines. How do we capture, I mean, is there any particular metrics that we follow to know if, say, if I'm being mentored, so are there some metrics from my end that I can have in my checklist to see that I am on track? Or even as a mentor, if I maintain the same, to see if the mentee is on track?
So I would want to refrain from putting something up for the mentor to understand whether mentee is on track. Rather, look at it that way, that for sure, definitely I would advocate measuring something, right? So that's definitely something I would strongly recommend. However, as a mentor, help the mentee to create that. Okay, help and guide the mentee should that be needed. Now, what I have seen popularly coming out, so people typically want to transition into a particular role or get better. So, what is the time of their transition? What are the things they need to know? What are their existing competency levels, and where are we aiming towards? So those are some of the things which people put as measurable criteria. Now, occasionally, what has also been seen is that there is a measurable criteria which talks about, okay, I want to clear, certifications and the likes. I personally feel, yes, certifications are great. However, certifications need to be combined with practical experience. That should go hand in hand. So I would say both. Ask people to create um, things like experience reports and so on. Help them create as a mentor. So I think those would be some of the things which are very, very easily measurable as to whether there was an increase in competency levels at some point in time during the as an outcome of the mentoring. Certifications, yes, but also let have some kind of mock sessions, interviews, or connects, or a few things with actual performing product managers. What did you learn as a mentee, and then come up with validated learning. So validation of the learning, look at the outcomes, look at the competency increase. Maybe those are some of the things which people have tried in past and has worked well from a mentor mentee standpoint. But help the mentee to have more onus and accountability. And at the end of the day, it is the mentee's career. Right? Hope that answers your question, Parminder.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Anything that's
So just to add on, it is like the coach is like a doctor. If I have to give a comparison sort of thing, right? So
correct.
it is up to the patient to take care of the medicines, follow the prescription, and make sure
Absolutely.
they are coming back to the health. It's not the responsibility of the doctor.
Absolutely,
Right? So,
Satish.
I mean, a
That is
simple generic example.
yes,
Very
yes,
good
yes.
example indeed. Yeah.
Very, very good apt example, Satish, and I personally feel that way. So the doctor can only give guidance, right? That you do this, you do this, you do this. That's about it.
Exactly.
Okay, RX as we say. So that's basically guidance. It's nothing more than that. So it is definitely the accountability of the patient to follow that, and at what pace. So if the patient wants to get well soon, then yeah, the pace has to be maintained. But the doctor can only give advice. That is absolutely a very, very very applicable example. Did we have anything on the chat? I think we have a couple of.
Nothing
Hi,
yet.
hi, Meghna. This is Prashant here. I have
Yeah.
one question.
Yes, Prashant.
Okay. So what would be the motivation factor for a mentor to keep it consistent, right? Okay, mentee, there will be a consistency because he has to go from path A to path B. But
Correct.
sometimes what we see the mentor, right? He should be also motivated to coach it, because apart from mentoring him, there will be a number of things is there, right? How we keep motivate ourselves.
So one important takeaway always for a mentor, for a mentoring session done right, is that you discover a lot of things about, first and foremost, about things that your experience is there. However, beyond your experience, how is that flowing into the organization? You get this very interesting backup from the mentee if it is run right. So you get to learn as a mentor, you get to learn a lot of different perspectives. Okay. And several number of times that I have personally tried, because what I started with in terms of my introduction, I've been working for more than 2 decades, so have seen a lot of disruption, not only in technology but also in ways of working. So one thing that I always benefit from a mentoring cycle is I understand the perspective which is probably one generation ahead of me in a way, right? So there is almost those 20-25 years in between, and it is very interesting to understand a whole different perspective which probably I haven't thought through. So what is in it for me as a mentor? I think discovery of different perspectives. You will be very surprised to see what unique solutions come out sometimes. So the mentor also has an enrichment of experience. The other thing is, what is it that we are missing in an organization is also something which we could gauge as mentors. So sometimes we have our own opinion, we have our own experience, but there is that, one more thing that's needed to really get off, or really get through. Like, so in couple of mentoring cycles that I have been part of in very, very recent times as a mentor, what I have discovered is that we have a good SharePoint site where we have a lot of information, where we have a lot of guidance about things to be done and what have you, and the planning horizons and everything. But when my mentee asked me some of the specific questions, and that's when I came to know that something was very obvious for me, which was not as obvious for the mentees. So that's basically the thing, discovered that okay, this guidance needs to be added. It is not so straightforward. I know about it maybe because I talk about it, think about it every single day, but that's not what is flowing into the organization. So these lacunas, these gaps, also we will be able to discover as mentors. And the other third thing, what is in it for me as a mentor is, you get to, again, networking, that aspect applies to everyone. So whenever there are new roles in your organization to be fulfilled, you have interacted with people, and typically we try to mix and match the mentors and mentees. We don't try to keep them in their reporting structure, so that they have the opportunity, the mentees have opportunity to interact with a mentor from a different place. Similarly, the mentor also has that opportunity. So in couple of my mentoring connects as a mentor, I got to understand that some of the mentees, they have some special skills, so we could also use them, provided they are ready to. We could also harness their skills at a different place in the organization sometimes. So those kind of things get discovered, and hence there are a lot of things which are in it for a mentor as well. Second thing, the fourth thing rather, would be the validated learning aspect. So when you encourage your mentee to refer or read something, for sure, and you want to have a conversation in the next mentoring connect, as a mentor you also go through it at least once, though you might know about it, but that's your revision, that's your rephrasing as well. So you get to go deep into certain topics as well, so your reading improves, your understanding improves, and then you get to understand a different perspective from the mentee as well. So that's how you grow as a mentor, as well. So look at it as a learning opportunity for yourself if you're playing the role of a mentor. Hope I was able to answer that.
Yep, in very detail. Thank you so
Sure.
much.
My pleasure. Okay, are there any other things, something on the chat?
It's from my side.
Okay, so that's a public announcement. Yes, please, the next session
Yes.
is starting, and good, how much time do we
By
need?
7:15.
Yeah.
So yes, we still have 7 minutes for current session. Feel free to ask the questions, folks.
Right. I think one
This
question
is
we have.
a great opportunity.
Sure. I think one question we have, maybe it is worth reiterating, though we discussed about it. Time tested matrix. I wouldn't use any canned matrix only, but rather let's discover things. So I'll give you an example from the story that we discussed towards the beginning, and what are the kind of measurable things that we came across there. Now, this person wanted to understand more about the product manager role. So we put in a few things for him to complete in terms of that understanding. What are those 3 or 4 or 5 things that this person needs to know about product manager role? How do we say it is done? So one was related to building an experience report. The other was related to understanding a few things, going through a learning path, and so on. So those were some of the things that we put up there. So competency per se, and also coming up with certain experience or interactive reports or questionnaires and things like that. So that's something which has been tried a number of times. But apart from that, let's be creative about it, and let not your matrix become tasks only, but rather what do we plan to achieve through this as well. And then sometimes encourage people to write a summary report of something that helps phenomenally. And if you're playing the role of a mentor in such a connect, then go ahead, review it. It is going to help a lot. Okay.
Maybe just interest of everyone, I can ask one question, Meghana. Dhananjay here.
Yes, Dhananjay.
Just so I starting I missed, but just to differentiate between the coaching session and mentoring session. Plus, how will you differentiate the skill set of the coach and mentor in both session?
Okay, simple example from my experience would be if someone's coming in for a mentoring session, the expectation is much more in terms of providing precise experience to precise challenges. And in case of coaching, the bigger section of the pie is towards, okay, go ahead and discover. However, I would want to mix them up a little bit and with an intention. So basically, mentoring talks about, okay, if this is the situation, this is the probable solution. And coaching talks about, if this is the situation, here are the possible 3 or 4 things. Choose the best option given your situation. So either ways, coaching encourages people to think a lot more. However, even in mentoring, you should try and put a little bit of that thinking capability onto the mentee. However, the pie is slightly lesser. So in mentoring, the expectation is that of precise situations and how to go through them, in contrast to coaching, which brings out the best through much more discovery. There's much more discovery involved in coaching than mentoring, I would say.
Thank you.
Welcome. Did you have one more question? I think you had 2, right? Or just 1?
No, just interest of time. If someone is asking, I will allow that. Otherwise,
Okay.
I'll make this till the 7 o'clock.
Okay, no, sure, definitely. No, feel free, because again, the session,
Go
like
ahead, I
any
guess.
So
Go ahead,
is it
Dhananjay.
like, yeah. So I was just again enabling the mentoring more on that. So is it, do you see this a good mentor who has gone through all this journey which the mentee might reach to him or her? So means,
Should the mentor be an expert in what he or she is mentoring,
yeah,
essentially?
yes,
May not always be like a real pro or a very subject matter expert. However, at least should have good grasp of what you are mentoring for. Okay, so without that, it would be very, very tough to mentor. Be it domain, be it the product knowledge, be it technical aspects. Yeah, you should have been there, done that at some point in time. You might not be a know-it-all, no one can be, but you should have. Yes, I completely concur with that. Good understanding of what you're trying to mentor somebody for. Yeah, that's critical.
someone has comment. Yeah. So otherwise both will be mentee. Yeah, correct. Because someone has to pass through that journey so that mentor can share his or her experience lively in that situation, what they did.
Correct.
Solutions.
Yes, you can share your experience. However, take it with a very, very interesting perspective, that there could be a different angle to the mentee situation now that times would have changed. So go with that, and try to maybe articulate more on the approach you followed when you were in that situation as a mentor. When that happened to you, here is how you approached it. I think articulating the approach helps much better, because that drives, okay, this is what I did to sort of get there, and so on. And then of course the ultimate trigger should be from the uh, mentee to choose the right option. It's like, when you're at the crease in the game of or when you're, sorry, at the strike in the game of cricket, and based on the ball you have to play. Your mentor will tell you that there are with this being something coming towards you, this is how you play, whereas the coach would encourage you to look out for different options and then find the right solution, but leave that room for a little bit of creativity, understanding the perspective and so on. So there's always that angle to it.
Okay, one last question, just related, because triggering the question. If someone has
Sure.
then, yeah, I think someone has questions, so let's take that one.
Yep. Sure. Maybe a good idea to unmute and ask, I think.
Any questions, folks? We are at the top of the hour, 7 o'clock, but in case any questions, you can still take it. Okay, Kaushik has a question.
Is it on the chat or
Kaushik, you want to unmute and ask the question? Yeah, it's on the chat.
Okay.
How do you deal with the working environment where majority of the team are non-English speakers? Language is a barrier during mentoring the team members.
Very, very good question. And I would make an assumption maybe, or ask Kaushik to validate. So though majority of the teams are non-English speakers, however, your language in which business is conducted is English, right?
Yeah, hi Meghna, I'm Kaushik.
Yes, Kaushik.
So I work in a country where English is not the major language.
Okay.
So basically I'm in Vietnam, so Vietnamese is the predominant language, even business also. So people chat, emails, of things in Vietnamese. But you are a foreigner working with the people who are Vietnamese. So you encourage them, talk to them, they talk in bits and pieces, but they are not fluent. So ultimately you are alienated, but you are the coach. You are the Scrum Master, but you are an alien. How you deal with this kind of situation?
So there are various ways to deal with it, because eventually, even in a local environment, though you have a lot of non-English speakers, maybe the business language around that place is definitely different from English. However, you're part of a global organization, so it would still help. So one aspect to consider is, over a period of time, try to encourage people to talk more and build their English speaking capability, because they're going to need this sooner or later. In one of the slides we spoke about building the soft skills, and I think communication, very, very important for people to build.
Sorry to interrupt, but in this G course, the Agile coach, so-called the Agile or Scrum Master, the role suddenly turned into an English teacher. You're correcting their English, you're making them to speak English. So your entire focus has changed. So I was a little confused here. And the more you correct the grammar, they are going away from you. They were not sharing the real work.
No, getting it. So a couple of things. I would still want the coach or the mentor to pursue the aspect of helping your mentees or team members to build their English language skills. That's one aspect. The other thing could be at a shorter scale, resort to a translator. There would be somebody for sure, not resort to tools. I think tools are not a very good idea when it comes to translations, but I understand that there are some geographies where even the product backlog gets written in the native language. So we would definitely need translations. The third thing that's very helpful is to sometimes go more picture driven when people are in a non-English speaking world, for that matter, because there is quite a seamless way in which people understand anything that's pictorial. So when you're talking about really indulging into a mentoring or coaching conversation, or even if you are the Scrum Master for a company or a team like this, it's very interesting to go more of the pictorial representation format. So there are a lot of tools that will help us draw things instead of write down bulky text or even create bulky presentations. So the quicker way, and to prevent yourself from becoming their English language professor, would be to really encourage them to write down a lot of things. I mean, I have been in organizations which exist in multiple countries, and then we have these challenges in several geographies where people are unable to understand. However, pictures, screenshots, videos of step-by-step working of your software and those kind of things So graphic representation is always a better way out, is what I have noticed in such a case. So instead of writing down something or reporting something, can we create a screenshot? Can we create a video kind of thing, where some amount of pressure from you will also be taken away, where you don't have to sit and correct every English language thing for people. So ask them to go more picture skew, and that I have seen help, because in my very first endeavor as a Scrum Master also, I had a cross geographical team, and we had developers who were non-English speakers. So we ran into all kind of things when it came to writing code, encouraging them to do pair programming, which is even more difficult when you have one portion of your team which does not speak English as much. So when they're doing a pair programming session, they're not able to interact as much. So we used a lot of screenshots, videos, and diagrams and whiteboarding and those kind of things to help tide over situations like this. So I hope, Kaushik, you were able to get some insights from this.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing this.
My pleasure. Anything else that we have, or are we at
Thanks,
time?
Meghana.
Sure.
So, as a token of appreciation, we would like to give this digital certificate to you, Meghana. Thanks for taking your time.
Thanks a lot. That's
for
nice.
a Friday evening and having this
Sure.
session.
Yep.
We will send it over to your email. And thanks all the participants for taking your time. Now we will be having a break till 7:15, and we can come back and we can continue the next session.
Sure.
We have a excited session, coaching. Now we are done with mentoring. The next session is about coaching. If in case you are on track 2, the current session, Track 1, Agility in and Beyond IT from Ashutosh. So we shared both the Zoom links. So Track 2 coaching, what's on your mind by Fatima in the current Zoom itself. No need to just be here. You can continue the conversation. And in case you want to join Ashutosh, you can join the Track 1 link. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.